Isabel is going to be telling us about the effect of losses in correlated quantum gases. And
Exactly.
Isabel is an experimentalist, and she's been doing recent theory on the effect of losses in gases.
Okay. So
Exactly.
maybe we can go on in this way. Yeah.
Yes, perfect. So
Okay.
in fact, I will tell you about some recent theory results about the effect of losses. So I think, yes, that's good. So it's related to these conference topics because it's linked to the subject of a quantum system coupled to an environment. And so a lot of you are interested in energy exchange between a system and some reservoir with the problematic of heat transfer. Here instead, we will discuss the topics of exchange of particles. So in these topics, you could do many different stuffs like investigating transport phenomena of particles. It's not what I am going to talk about. I'm going to investigate simply the effect of losses. So coupling to an environment, a reservoir of particles, which is empty. And these topics has gained some interest recently. In particular, losses have been proposed as a mean to reach a correlated system, quantum correlated system, starting from a system which was uncorrelated. And I give here some references about these topics. So this is very interesting. And but on the other hand, there is still a lot of stuff to discover, to investigate on the effect of losses. And I hope you will be convinced by my seminar. And in my seminar, I will consider the effect of losses in a quantum system that already presents some correlations. And I hope you will see that this topic is far from being understood yet. And I think I have some discovered some surprising effect. So can we change slide? Okay, so the outline of my talk will be the following. So I will first show as the main effect I discover, it is that the well-used Lindblad dynamics to describe losses. When we apply this theory to a quantum gas with contact interaction, then we face a problem of UV divergence. I will explain this, and then I will explain how this divergence gets regularized, taking into account the non-vanishing correlation time of the reservoir. I will briefly explain how we can generalize the results for two atoms to a many-body system using the notion of contact. And this will be valid only in some limits. And to have a more general results, we will consider the case of a BEC described by Bogolyubov. And in this case, we can do a complete calculation. Okay, can you change? Okay, first section, can we change slide again? Okay, so we describe a system in contact with a reservoir, so it's going to not to be described by a well-defined quantum state. Instead, we describe it by its density matrix rho. So when we consider the effect of losses, the approximation which is used in all the previous work dealing with losses in the context of cold atom assume the reservoir correlation time is much smaller compared to any time describing the dynamics of the system. In this case, the effects of losses are described by the well-known Lindblad equation, which gives the equation of motion for the density matrix rho, and which I wrote here. And oh, sorry, the integral doesn't come out, but you have a gamma integral over dr, and here you have the usual Laplacian term. So I wrote this for simply one body loss phenomena. So the coupling to the reservoir is just one body term, and I assume homogeneous losses. The loss process does not depend on the position in the system. So we see from this equation that losses are described completely by a single parameter, gamma, which gives the loss rate. So it's a universal behavior in this sense. It is not sensitive to the detail of the reservoir. So the effect of losses, so the solution of this Lindblad equation is trivial if you consider a system which is uncorrelated. That is, if the density matrix can be written as a product of density matrix rho A for each one atom quantum state A. Then, of course, what happens is just the population in each state A decreases according to the NA over dt equal minus gamma NA. But what happens when you have a correlation between atoms present at the beginning in your system? Then it's a very difficult problem. And you do have, in general, correlation between atoms in your system because of just interaction between atoms. So we will change slide. And now we introduce another universal description, which is widely used in cold atom community, which is the approximation of interaction between atoms with a contact interaction term. So typically, the interaction range RE is much smaller compared to all typical length scale in your problem. And then you can assume the potential is actually zero range. And the effect of the potential between two atoms, the interaction potential, resumes to a boundary condition for the wave function, the relative wave function, when it approaches the origin. And this boundary wave function condition is parameterized by a single parameter A, the scattering length. So in 1D, for instance, what happens is that you have a kink of the derivative. In 2D, the wave function should diverge in a logarithm way. And in 3D, it should diverge in 1 over R. And again, it's a universal behavior because detail of the potential is non-important and all the physics is captured by a single parameter A. And you can replace your potential by a contact potential with a delta function. So V equals delta, D is the dimension of R, times U, and U, for instance, in 3D, it would be a derivative over R or R psi. Okay, now the point of contact interaction potential is that it will lead to the presence of 1 over P4 momentum tails in the momentum distribution. And this is because the solution of the two-body scattering wave function close to zero distance is about a solution of Laplacian psi plus V psi equals 0. And since V is in a delta function, when you project on a momentum state, you directly find that psi p scale in as 1 over p square, so that psi p square, which gives the momentum distribution at p, scale as 1 over p4. And now this 1 over p4 momentum tails, they induce, sorry, all the integrals that do not appear in this, in this PDF viewer. The 1 over P4 behavior of the momentum tails implies that the kinetic energy is actually diverging in dimension larger than 1. And of course, the total energy of your system is not diverging, so it is compensated by a a divergence of the interaction energy, so that altogether the energy is finite. But if you concentrate only on the kinetic energy, it is diverging. So next slide. Okay, so we will see that the combination of those contact interactions and the Lindblad dynamics will lead to a divergence of the energy change rate. So the Lindblad dynamics assumes a vanishing correlation time of the reservoir. So loss events are instantaneous. So if we have a loss event at a position R loss, the wave function of the system is just modified by application of annihilation of operator at position R loss. So the wave function of the remaining atoms will be just, it doesn't have time to change. It will be just up to some factor, the initial wave function for R1, the position of the lost atom, equal R loss, and R2, R3, etc. So this wave function still presents the singular behavior associated to the contact potential when R2, R3, etc. go to R loss. So you still have this 1 over P4 momentum tails and the diverging kinetic energy, but this diverging kinetic energy now is no longer compensated by an interaction energy. So the energy of your state is infinite. So you have a problem of a UV divergence here. So it tells you that Lindblad dynamics with contact interaction is responsible for a diverging energy change rate. dE over dt is infinite. So of course, in reality, it's not the case. What happens is that either the contact interaction, you do not have really contact interaction in true life. You have a finite range, and this will regularize the divergence. Here, instead, I will concentrate on another kind of regularization, which would be the effect of a reservoir which has a finite correlation time. So in terms of energy, it means that it has a finite energy width. Okay, can we change slide? Okay, I will see concretely how we regularize the problem for two-body losses. So change slide. So let us first discuss a little more about the losses I am considering. I am considering a loss process which should be homogeneous and independent on the position of the atom in the system. So for each position R, I should couple to a continuum. So for instance, if I have a 2D gas with the vertical dimension which is frozen, I could use the vertical dimension to produce the continuum by coupling, as I show here in this cartoon, by coupling two states which are untrapped vertically. In the 3D case, you could think of disintegration of an atom, a metastable atom. For instance, you have one particle gives two particles, one photon, one particles, and this gives you extra degree of freedom, of course, that will make the continuum. Okay, and I emphasize that I consider a homogeneous situation so that I have conservation of the total momentum. So for each momentum P, I could extract from my system an atom of momentum P, and by conservation of momentum, I should create an excitation in my reservoir of the same momentum P, and index by an index that I call I, which index the continuum. And because I want my my process to be independent on P, because I want Galilean transform invariance, I insist that the energy of the state Pi of my reservoir is nothing else than P squared over 2m plus EI. And now I can define a correlation function of the reservoir G of 2, which is sum over I of VI square exponential I EI tau over H bar, and it has some correlation time tau raise. I can take the Fourier transform, the spectral density, which is proportional to the density of state at some energy E of my reservoir state EI. And so this function, big gamma of E, has some width E res, which is the energy width of the reservoir. So the assumption made when using the Lindblad equation is that tau res goes to 0, or equivalently, E res goes to infinity. Can we switch slide? Okay. Now let's see what happens when you have several atoms. So for simplicity, I will just consider the 2-atom case. And for simplicity, I will consider bosonic atoms. I consider an initial state of energy E0, which has a total momentum 0, so that it writes in this way, sum over P, phi of P, one atom in P, one atom in minus P. And this state is coupled to a state where I have one atom in the system, a remaining atom in the system of momentum P, and one excitation in my reservoir of momentum minus P to preserve momentum, and with the index I. And because of energy conservation, the I which will be relevant will be those for which the energy EI is about E0 minus P square over M to compensate for the kinetic energy of the energy associated to the momentum in the reservoir and the energy of the remaining atoms. So when I compute with the Fermi-Golden rule the rate of events with final momentum of the remaining atoms equal to P, I find gamma of P equal phi pi square, big gamma of E0 minus P square over M. Now from this, I can easily compute the energy increase rate by doing the sum over P of gamma of P, P square over 2M. Now for large P, I know that I have the 1 over P4 momentum tails, and then when I do the calculation, I find that the derivative of the energy versus time is equal to alpha, the coefficient of the 1 over P square momentum tail, times gamma naught, times B, where B depends on the function gamma of E. And in 1D, for E res, which is very large, I find that it converges to some value which scales as 1 over P0. Okay, nothing bad happens. But in 2D and 3D, I find that the results does depend on E res when E res is very large, and it diverges when you let E res going to infinity. And the way it diverges is in logarithm of square root of E res in 2D and in square root of E res in 3D. So we recover the hand-waving argument that the energy increase rate will diverge when E res goes to infinity, and we have the scaling with E res. Okay, that's nice. Next slide. Now, next slide, yes. Now I will generalize to a many-body system. So if E res is very large, the physics that will be important will still be a two-body physics only. So I can do a sum. I can use my previous results using a sum over the pairs in my system. And a quantity that quantifies the number of pairs in a quantum system with contact interaction is what we call the contact coefficient C. And the contact is also the amplitude of the 1 over P4 tails of the momentum distribution. So I can easily go from my results for 2 atoms to a result for many body system, just replacing my coefficient alpha with the contact parameter C. So I will find that the energy increase rate in your system will be equal to gamma naught C, the contact, over M times B, the function I showed you before, which in 3D scales as a square root of M E res. So of course we recover the UV divergence when E res goes to infinity. Okay, so this is nice, but it's a limiting case only for E res very large. It would be nice to have a description which works for any E res and which takes into account everything. So this we cannot do in general, but we can do in one situation, which is the case of a Bose-Einstein condensate weakly interacting, so that we can describe it with the famous Bogolyubov description. So I recall it briefly, the Bogolyubov description. You have Bogolyubov excitation indexed by the momentum P with the creation operator AP square. And so the Bogolyubov Hamiltonian is written here with the sum over P of epsilon P, AP square S AP. And the relation between AP square and the original atomic creation and annihilation operator is written here, the Bogolyubov transformation written here on the right. Okay, so EP, I wrote the Bogolyubov spectrum, epsilon P as the function of P. You just have to remember that for large P, we recover relation dispersion with epsilon P about equal to P square over 2M. And one important result also is that UP square minus VP square, which are the coefficients involved in the Bogolyubov transformation, are equal to 1. Okay, so we recover from this Bogolyubov treatment the 1 over P4 tails. And this is easily seen when you compute the population using Bogolyubov transformation, the population in some momentum state P, which I wrote here. And using the fact that the coefficient VP are such that for large P, VP square is proportional to 1 over P4, you recover 1 over P4 momentum tails. And by the way, you find that the contact is proportional to Gn square. So G is the strength of the interaction.
Okay. So Isabel, I'm sorry to interrupt. So the time is up. So if you could please summarize the rest of the result for the Bogolyubov approach in the next 2 minutes so that we have time for discussions.
Yes, sorry. So we can now write down the coupling to the reservoir, and when we do some work going to a rotating wave approximation and Born-Markov approximation, we find a master equation for the Bogolyubov excitations, which I wrote here. So next slide, please. So from this, we can compute the evolution of the population in the Bogolyubov modes. We recover the case of non-interacting atoms as it should. And from this, we can compute the evolution of the energy in your system. And we recover the UV divergence if we insist on a reservoir of infinite energy widths. Otherwise, we can numerically compute, knowing gamma of E, we can compute the energy increase rate in your system. Next slide. Okay, so we know that in 2D and 3D, the gas is chaotic, so we expect to relax towards thermal equilibrium. So for slow losses, we can assume at any time we have a thermal equilibrium. And since we can compute dE over dt, we can easily compute the derivative of temperature versus time, and we can compute the time evolution of the temperature in your system under the effect of losses. And I plot the results here for different energy widths of your reservoir. Okay, so conclusion. Okay, so I am sorry I am late, so I will not repeat what I already said. I just want to advertise that the results we had previously in the particular case of 1D gases. In this case, you do not have this UV divergent problem. So Lindblad and contact interaction are physically okay. They do not imply non-physical results. And in this case, however, it's an integrable system, and you do not expect to have a thermalization. Instead, losses produce non-thermal states that we completely characterized in previous papers. Okay, thank you very much. And thank you a lot for the slides.
Thank you. So we have time for questions. So maybe I can ask a question. So now thinking back on the experiments that you have traps and you don't have Galilean invariance. So what do you advance will happen there? So you will have probably dependence on P, and what is going to be different?
Yes, I would say that I would expect a local approximation to be good, actually. That is, when gamma naught is quite large compared to the typical time scale of evolution in my trap, I expect to be able to describe losses locally. So what I would do is a local approximation to describe in the way I presented here locally what happens, and then I can assume I have rethermalization if losses are slow enough.
Okay, no other questions?
So maybe I ask one question.
Go ahead, Mohammed.
Yeah. So if you actually, thanks for a very nice talk. If you take the other approach that the momentum cutoff, you impose a momentum cutoff, what would you expect differently? And is it more motivated from the standpoint of the experiments, or yeah?
Yes, it's a good question. I think, like in the case of metastable atoms who would deintegrate, the energy width of the reservoir is typically huge. So I would not expect to be limited by the energy width of the reservoir, but more by the finite interaction range of the interacting potential between atoms. In general, it's very difficult to treat. Because then we have to know some detail about the interaction potential between atoms. Within Bogoliubov treatment, we did some calculation assuming a Gaussian interaction potential between atoms with some finite range sigma. And then we can also compute evolution of the temperature versus time. But then the difficult part is to see on the experiment, yes, what is really sigma. I think.
Thank you.
But I just want to advertise that we can imagine actually to engineer some losses. Like for instance, you could use a transfer with a microwave or to an untrapped internal state that does not interact with your initial state. And then you would make the coupling with a noisy radio frequency, so with some spectral density. And then you can shape the spectral density as you want. And you can choose the shape of gamma of E and the value of E res.
I see. Thanks.
Okay, with that, we have time for one more question. If there is a quick question out there. Okay, if not the case, let's thank Isabel again. It's a nice talk.